Episode 49, The Beautiful Waterfall. Spending time with the family can be a difficult thing to do, especially when family members get tied up in their busy schedules. For Aaron, quality time was something that he always wanted, but with his parents constantly at work and his older brother Anthony wanting to spend more time with his high school friends instead, such bonding sessions hardly existed. So, finally, on a long holiday weekend, Aaron's parents initiated a family outing which got Aaron very excited. Aaron's dad brought the family on a long drive to a reservoir, and as they were driving along, Aaron said, "Mom, Dad, how come we've never gone to this place before? I looked it up online and it looks really nice. There's a waterfall plunge pool at the end and it's huge, and there are deck chairs around it as well for us to just chill on." "That's because you don't have any friends to go with," said Anthony, who always jumped at the chance to bother his younger brother. Aaron's mom then said, "Be nice to your little brother, Aunt. He's still only 13, so it's only normal that he hasn't gone on such adventures with his friends like you have." "But I remembered that I used to hang out till late when I was 13. It was lots of fun," said Anthony. Anthony's dad then joked, "Yeah, and we remembered grounding you many times as well. It was lots of fun for us, too." Aaron and his parents laughed at an embarrassed Anthony as the family enjoyed the rest of the drive. Once they arrived at the reservoir's waterfall, Aaron's dad found a spot for the family to relax at. Aaron's mom took out the meals that she prepared at home earlier, and the family settled down for lunch. After they were done eating, while Aaron's parents were sitting around chatting, Anthony and Aaron quickly changed to their shorts and dove into the waterfall lake. Aaron then said, "Hey, Aunt, this is so much fun. Next time I'm going to follow you and your friends to these kinds of places." "No way, my friends would think I'm lame for bringing along my little brother. You can ask Mom and Dad to bring you here again next time," said Anthony. "Oh, come on, just once," said Aaron. "Or at least when you get cooler. We'll see in 5 years, maybe," said Anthony as the brothers continued splashing around the waterfall lake. A while later, as Aaron was still splashing around the lake, he could see Anthony go underwater and headed towards the plunge pool of the waterfall, right where the gush of water streamed down from the cliff above. Seeing how it seemed fun to do, Aaron followed suit. While still underwater and approaching the plunge pool, Aaron could now see Anthony right at the heart of the gush, while threading right below the water's surface. And to Aaron's surprise, he saw behind Anthony a man swimming from the other side of the gushing water. Aaron tried to recall if the man was behind the waterfall earlier, before him and Anthony had gone underneath. Aaron then remembered that there was no one else that was close to the plunge pool, and that only him and Anthony were around the area. Others who were in the lake were all closer to land, closer to where their parents were resting at. As these thoughts were playing in his head, Aaron then saw the man getting closer and closer to Anthony, like a tiger moving in water. That was when Aaron realized that he needed to resurface for air. Aaron went up, and after a couple of deep breaths, he dove back into the water. To his shock, he now saw Anthony still diving around in the water, but with the man now closer to Anthony. Although Aaron initially thought that the man was getting closer to Anthony to just interact with him, he suddenly saw one of the man's hands reach out towards Anthony and pulled him back towards him. Right then, he saw Anthony struggle and then saw the face of the man begin to show clearly. The man was pale, bald, and his eyes were completely black. He seemed to be laughing as he pulled Anthony backwards. That was when Aaron knew that something wasn't right. Aaron swam towards Anthony and tried to pull Anthony towards him, but right when he was close enough to do so, another one of the man's long hands reached out to Aaron. Aaron felt the man's hand on his forearm and instinctively pulled away before feeling sharp pain on his forearm as if the man had scratched him. Now terrified that the man might harm him, Aaron swam up and back towards his parents. As Aaron was swimming back to shore furiously, his parents knew that something wasn't right. Aaron then saw his dad stand up and shout at him, as though talking to him, but the gush of the waters made him unable to hear what his dad had said. But right when he reached the edge and his hands were rested against the grass while his lower body was still submerged in the water, Aaron saw his dad standing right on the grass in front of him. He then heard his dad ask, "What's wrong, Aaron? Where's your brother?" While still panting, Aaron tried to catch his breath and said, "Aunt, he got pulled in to the waterfall." Without saying anything else, Aaron saw his dad jump into the waters right behind him and saw him swim furiously towards the waterfall base and dive down. Everyone else around the area began to stand up, including Aaron's mom, as they all sensed that something was very wrong. Within a few tense seconds underwater, Aaron's dad resurfaced again but didn't say anything as he dove down again after catching a quick breath. After about a minute, Aaron's dad resurfaced again and shouted out to his wife to call for the police. From then on, those around knew that someone was missing. For Aaron and his parents, they knew that Anthony was gone. The police and rescue team came minutes later and began searching. While doing so, Aaron and his parents sat on a nearby grass area as they cried and were traumatized at the fact that they would most likely never see Anthony ever again. While the search was going on and the hope was fading, it was almost nighttime. A police officer then came over and said, "I'm sorry, sir, as we are still searching for your son. I would need to know exactly what happened to help with our investigation." "Sure," said Aaron's dad as he replied to the officer while still distraught. "I'm sorry. While Anthony was in the water, was he there with your other son, Aaron?" asked the officer. "Yes, Aaron and Anthony were together in the water earlier," said Aaron's dad. The officer then turned to Aaron and said, "Okay, Aaron, I just need you to tell me exactly what you saw earlier." At that point of time, neither of his parents had known of the full story yet, as they were more focused on searching for Anthony earlier. Aaron then said, "Yes, sir. I was swimming in the water with my brother. Then when I dove inside, I saw a man appearing from behind him. Anthony didn't notice the man, and the man pulled Anthony towards him and into the waterfall. I tried to pull him, but I got scratched right here," as Aaron showed the scratch marks on his forearm. Aaron's dad interrupted the conversation and said, "I swear, when me and your mom were seated here, we saw no one else come close to you guys." "We will do our best, sir. Hang in there," said the officer. "Has this ever happened before here, officer?" asked Aaron's mom. After a brief pause, the officer said, "Unfortunately, yes, ma'am." "Then why did you allow people to swim here if you knew it was dangerous?" asked Aaron's mom. "I hate to say this, ma'am, but it's because there hasn't been any safety issues here that we could logically explain. So, we had no good reason to close this place down. People who drowned here were never due to harsh current or excessive depth of the pool. Those who went missing previously just disappeared, and we just couldn't figure out how they were found dead somewhere else," explained the officer. While still in a traumatic state, Aaron's dad said, "I should have known better. These places are filled with such spirits. It's proof. It even scratched Aaron and laughed when it saw Aunt struggle." The officer pardoned himself to carry on with his investigations, while the family sat there sobbing endlessly as night turned to morning and as the search and rescue mission was still ongoing. By then, hope was almost non-existent, but the family wanted Anthony to be found so that they could have some form of closure. When noon struck, they were finally approached by a rescue officer who hesitantly said, "I'm sorry, sir, ma'am. Your son had passed away. He had been found some 8 miles away from here." Hearing the piece of news, the family began sobbing again as they could hardly accept the truth that Anthony was gone. Aaron's dad then asked, How did he get there?" "We are not exactly sure yet, but as the police officer had shared with you yesterday, there have been occurrences that happened at this waterfall that we just couldn't explain. We checked the area that he was last seen at. There was no gap or hole in the wall that could have pulled him away from here," explained the rescue officer. After the body was eventually brought to the family for confirmation, they acknowledged that it was indeed Anthony, even though the bloated, lifeless figure was merely a bare resemblance of their son. That was the final time that the family were together. As years went by, hardly being able to recover from the loss. Especially Aaron, who saw exactly what pulled his brother into the gushing water. The smiling man who drowned Anthony. That left so many questions as to why the man wanted to harm people who swam there. Was he a vengeful spirit? Or did Anthony rudely step into the spirit's home? Regardless of the possible reasons, since then, the family completely stopped from ever going for any sort of nature-related activities, with the belief that the spirits do not welcome them to their homes and would harm them if they were to ever come again.